Welcome back to COP27. I'm Landon, the Senior Director of the Atlantic Council Global Energy Center in Washington, D.C. We're here in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, taking a pulse of the global climate agenda and seeing how the global community and all the stakeholders, a really inclusive group of stakeholders, is moving forward on both climate change and also the broader energy transition that underpins that conversation. I'm really excited today to be joined in the Saudi pavilion with Khalid Abuleif, who is the senior head of the Saudi delegation here at COP27. Khalid, it's wonderful to be with you.
Thank you so much, Landon, for this invitation.
Khalid, this is considered by many the implementation COP. And I have to say, being on the ground this past week, we really have a sense of inclusivity of industry and a broader slate of stakeholders that are saying, okay, we appreciate that the energy transition is underway and we're working to find solutions. There's a lot of solution-oriented conversations happening. What has COP27 been like for you so far? What is Saudi Arabia hoping to get out of the dialogue here in Sharm el-Sheikh?
Well, thank you so much, Landon, for this. And let me say that we have been working for 3 decades in building policy. And then we came to the best policy that we could. Mm-hmm. And this was the Paris Agreement. And I think it was an amalgamation of experiences we had with so many instruments on addressing climate change over the years, to the point where we came to an agreement that has everybody on board. Now, having the Paris Agreement, we completed it in 2015. We completed our rule books. We've also looked at before we start our implementation of NDCs in 2020 on the Glasgow decision that we had to set us the stage to close the rule book as well as to move forward. We were really happy that Egypt has started with this label for this COP, which is from ambition to implementation.
Right.
Or to action. And to tell you the truth, this is where we really need to move in the action domain. Landon, I have to say something here. Coming to this point for Saudi Arabia wasn't easy. Saudi Arabia had so many challenges in first, understanding the Paris Agreement, understanding the challenge that they have. We really had a mounting challenge, because we know for a fact that actions to be taken by Paris Agreement is going to be very costly for Saudi Arabia. As you know, the IPCC have said clearly that those countries that would be most impacted by any measures on climate is going to be oil producers, developing countries. And the reason is because their economies are not fully diversified and they rely heavily on limited sectors. And this is why a landmark initiative that was taken, which is Vision 2030, to make sure that Saudi Arabia can build their resilience to any kind of measures that would be taken. So that was the first step that we have taken. A second step that was extremely important for us was G20, when we have at that time tested the approach that we would like to address, which is the circular carbon economy approach, which basically looks at how would a country that would be rich in resources can provide the world with their secured supply, and at the same time that country would be able to also meet its obligations under the Paris Agreement. And because of that, we had 2 major initiatives that was extremely important. One of them is the Saudi Green Initiative, which basically put a roadmap for Saudi Arabia on tackling that issue. And we did not stop there. We are holding a yearly meeting at the highest level that would, on a yearly basis, become accountable ourselves to what we have put on the table, and to show the world that we are really moving in action towards meeting those plans that we have put together, whether the ambition 2030 or the ambition in 2060. Another initiative that is extremely important and relates to regional leadership and making sure that this region also is a leader in addressing climate change. And then we put to that a very ambitious target. The region is responsible for 3%. And we're hoping that we could be able to address 10% of the efforts that the world had when we initiated this initiative, which is the Middle East Green Initiative, last year. So with that, I think we are really set to tackle climate change and also take leadership, hopefully, in addressing it.
I really appreciate this regional perspective in particular. I mean, in Sharm el-Sheikh, I literally, is not rhetorically, can see Saudi Arabia across the Red Sea. And, we're going to continue on that momentum to the UAE as they take on COP28. So it's great to see net zero roadmaps and strategies, including the circular carbon economy, develop here. I want to transition the conversation, though, a little bit more globally. And I want to talk about the fact that we're in an acute energy crisis right now. And some are arguing the largest conversation and crisis in energy that we've seen, certainly in a half century because of post-pandemic economic recovery, coupled with the Russian invasion in Ukraine and the consequence on the European continent in particular. How do we manage near-term energy security needs with the long-term path to decarbonization and a net zero future that I know Saudi Arabia, amongst others, is committed to achieving?
Landon, it is a great challenge. It's not an easy thing to do. And I think this was also tackled when we really, signed the Paris Agreement, because we know for a fact that we really want to continue our role as a leading country to make sure that we have secured, reliable, as well as affordable energy sources, and that is something that we've been committed, and we will continue committing ourselves to. Now the question is, how did we manage both keeping that commitment, yet also making sure that we are meeting our goals? Two things we've done. The first one was the circular carbon economy. And this was extremely important for the world to accept it and endorse it, because this approach is a little bit different than the other approaches that is already existing. But this approach was extremely important for a country like Saudi Arabia, and a resource-rich country that would like to make sure that we are, adhering to our commitments that we made under the Paris Agreement. So the beauty about the circular carbon economy, it's all levers are open, all solutions are open. And then we have a hedge in it. So you will have the reduce lever, where renewable should be the low-hanging fruits, and we are investing heavily on it. But also we know for a fact that hydrocarbons will be with us for a while, whether it is going to be across the border, exported, or if the world will not require it, then we really need to find ways and means to utilize it internally. However, utilize it while we are also obligated to our commitments we made under the Paris Agreement. So we want to make sure that if it's utilized internally, it would also be done in a way that would use all those available technologies to address that question. So that was important. So when we looked at the hydrocarbon side, we found out that we really need reuse, recycle, and remove, which is basically abatement as well as removal. So for any oil that we produce, we heavily encourage oil to chemical. And we have a full established program that is oil sustainability program that basically takes oil and look at future applications for that, so that path would be open as a hedge for the future as we move forward. If hydrocarbon is combusted, then we have two ways to deal with that. One is to capture it and deal with it, whether to reuse it or recycle it or remove it into sequester it from a point source. But we know that point sources efficiency is not that high sometimes.
Right.
The science says that it goes between 80 to 95% sometimes. Right. And of course, cost factor will become extremely important. Now, if any emission has been left to the atmosphere, I think we really need to move into a third category, which is the remove category. Mm-hmm. And on that remove side, you would have basically mechanically removing it from the atmosphere, or through nature-based solutions, through rehabilitation, green cover, as well as tree planting to take that CO2 out of the atmosphere. Now, that's the beauty about the circular Capricorn. Mm-hmm. And that gave us truly a great region to maneuver and to make sure that we will be able to meet both challenges, the challenge for securing the world, as well as the challenge for managing our emission as we move forward. Just to add a bit on that, we thought that the approach is not enough. We really did have, as a matter of fact, an initiative, which is the Saudi Green Initiative, that basically look at all these levers and make sure that we are addressing all the three acts, the averting, the abatement, as well as the removal, and make sure that we will be working and accounting ourselves as we move for the future. We have two targets in our hand. Okay. The 2030, and I think we have that well established. We have the institution to do it. We have the funding already secured, as well as we are starting the accounting process towards that. But also we have the 2060 challenge, and in that technology would become extremely important, and maturing technologies like CCS and maturing DAC and other technologies that would abate methane and others, I think becomes extremely important, and we really need to work hard at this stage to ensure that they are ready for us to reach our goals in 2060.
Well, Khalid, I really appreciate this comprehensive overview in terms of how Saudi Arabia is setting itself up to meet its climate commitments while still ensuring the world has access to affordable and reliable energy. I know you're busy. Thank you for making the time here at COP27.
Thank you for coming also, Landon, and I appreciate this interview.
Thank you so much.